Socrates never wrote a single book. He left behind no scrolls, no doctrines carved in stone. All we have are the echoes, fragments of conversations, memories captured by his students like Plato and Xenophon. Yet from those fragments, a fire was lit. A fire that would shape Stoicism, guide emperors, and challenge us, even now, to look inward and ask the hardest question of all: what kind of life am I really living? To think like Socrates is to ask. To live like a Stoic is to act. Together, they form a way of being that is radically powerful and deeply liberating. One is the sword that cuts through illusion. The other is the shield that protects your soul from chaos. Together, they carve the path to inner freedom. Socrates didn't promise comfort. He didn't offer quick answers or easy inspiration. What he gave was far more dangerous: the challenge to think for yourself. He believed that an unexamined life is not worth living. Not because you wouldn't succeed. Not because you wouldn't find pleasure. But because without reflection, without self-awareness, you become a prisoner of other people's opinions, a puppet of society's noise, a slave to your own unchecked desires. Sound familiar? That's the modern world. Endlessly loud. Full of distractions. But empty of wisdom. Socrates lived in ancient Athens, yet his world feels eerily close to ours, ambitious, noisy, and often blind. He saw people chasing status, craving approval, hiding their ignorance behind clever words. And so he walked barefoot through the streets, challenging them, not to win, but to wake them up. Know thyself, he urged. Not in theory, but in practice. Because without knowing who you are, how can you know what to value? What to pursue? What to suffer for? The Stoics would later take that torch and run with it. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, was said to have been inspired by Socratic dialogues. Epictetus, the freed slave turned philosopher, referred to Socrates constantly. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled Rome, quoted him in his meditations. Why? Because Socrates embodied the very spirit of Stoicism, unshaken by praise or blame, indifferent to wealth and power, and firmly anchored in virtue above all else. What does it mean to think like Socrates? It means questioning your assumptions, even the ones that feel safe. It means refusing to accept popular opinions as truth. Socrates didn't believe he was wise. In fact, he famously said, "I know that I know nothing." But that humility was his strength. It opened the door to real knowledge. And it kept him free. Because once you admit you don't know, you're no longer pretending. You're no longer clinging to ego. You're open, teachable, free. And to live like a Stoic? It means mastering your emotions. Not by suppressing them, but by understanding them. It means accepting what you can't control and focusing fiercely on what you can: your thoughts, your actions, your character. It means living by principles, not moods. By values, not validation. Socrates did this naturally. He didn't chase pleasure or possessions. He believed that the good life wasn't about having more, it was about being more. More honest. More courageous. More self-disciplined. When the government sentenced him to death for corrupting the youth, he didn't run. He didn't beg. He calmly drank the poison. Why? Because he lived by reason, not fear. Because he had already done the one thing most people never do: he had made peace with himself. Can you say the same? We chase so much. Status. Approval. Recognition. We shape our lives around what others expect. We fear being wrong. We fear being disliked. But Socrates? He walked into every conversation not to prove he was right, but to seek what was true. He didn't need applause. He needed honesty. And that made him fearless. The Stoics call this ataraxia, inner tranquility. A stillness that can't be shaken by outside forces. When you live like a Stoic, you begin to realize how little you actually need to be free. You don't need everything to go your way. You don't need people to understand you. You don't need your past to be perfect or your future to be certain. You just need your own mind to be clear enough to choose virtue over impulse, truth over comfort, discipline over distraction. Socrates knew that life isn't about avoiding death, it's about avoiding dishonor. Dying without ever living. Without ever asking the deeper questions. Who am I? What matters to me? What is worth suffering for? And how do I live a life that isn't just busy, but meaningful? He walked among merchants, politicians, and poets. He asked questions that seemed simple, yet unraveled entire belief systems. What is justice? What is courage? What is love? He asked not to win debates but to guide people inward. He saw that the real battle wasn't out there, it was inside. The enemy wasn't the world. It was our ignorance, our ego, our false certainty. That's the Stoic lesson too. Control the inner, ignore the outer. You can't stop people from lying. But you can refuse to lie to yourself. You can't stop pain. But you can decide how to respond to it. You can't control how long you live, but you can control how deeply you live. Socrates didn't care if people laughed at him. He didn't care that he had no wealth or title. He lived in service of truth. And truth, to him, meant facing your own contradictions, your own blind spots, your own fear of being wrong. That's real courage, not lifting swords, but lifting the veil between you and your real self. Think about that the next time you're scrolling, comparing, pretending. Think about it when you feel the pressure to conform, to be liked, to stay silent. Socrates lost everything because he refused to stop asking questions. But he gained the only thing that matters, integrity. The Stoics remind us that freedom isn't a gift from the world. It's a victory within. You don't earn it by owning things. You earn it by owning yourself. By disciplining your desires. By challenging your assumptions. By becoming unbreakable not through force, but through understanding. To think like Socrates is to live with awareness. To stop running from discomfort and start learning from it. To see every challenge as a teacher. Every setback as a chance to sharpen your reason. To live like a Stoic is to take those insights and act on them, consistently, courageously, no matter the cost. Inner freedom isn't found in avoiding pain. It's found in choosing what's right, even when it hurts. Socrates knew this. The Stoics knew this. And now you do too. So what will you do with that knowledge? Will you keep pretending to know what you haven't examined? Will you keep obeying the crowd, even when your soul whispers no? Or will you pause, turn inward, and start asking the questions that actually matter? The path to freedom isn't outside you. It never was. It's in your mind. In your choices. In the space between impulse and action. In the quiet courage to live not as the world demands, but as truth demands. Think like Socrates. Live like a Stoic. That's the way out of the noise. That's the way into freedom.